The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, good evening to everybody out there. How are you all in the audience? And we hope to hear from you tonight. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But we've got an exciting show. Miss Tommy, what you going on? What's going on?
Hey, I'm right here today.
She's right there, y'all. She's really right there. I can almost maybe see her, from afar, or send my drone over to see where she is, and she can wave and everything. Anyway, well, good evening to everybody, and we thank you for joining us for another exciting show tonight. Just continuing in our women's history series, and tonight is very important. It's always on time. You see, when you follow God's lead, when you include God on everything, He knows what you need. He knows when it needs to come forward. He knows that you will be listening. He knows you. And I definitely needed this. And my puppy needs my attention. There she is. Okay. She made her debut real quick. Anyway, but we're going to talk about, who are you checking on? Who are you checking on? And, it's just bear with us here, because as we have said so many times on the show, on this past year especially, we as women, we wear multiple hats. There is no, even a young girl that I know personally, that walks around with one hat on. No matter how old she is, whether she's 14, whether she's the baby of the family or she's the oldest of the family, it does not matter. Every little girl I know, the moment she can start walking, the moment she can start talking, she's already checking on people. She's already making herself busy. She's always already doing something. And if you're a good, observant parent, your child could kind of tell you what she kind of leaned towards, I remember the days when my baby girl first started walking. She started walking before her brother, and she would go in the room and change her clothes and come out. And I'm talking about 10 outfits a day, 10 changes a day. And because I'm not a mom that have her head in the sand, I'm looking at her like, okay, she's got a lot of hyperactivity going on. But I know I've drank a lot of Pepsi and I ate ice while I carried these folks. So I said, okay, I got to watch and be very watchful. Well, she turns out she never been diagnosed for anything. Her hyperactivity was just her happiness, her joy, and she was always moving, always going. And at 20 years old, that's what she does. And she's a fashionista. She's got her homeboys calling her from the mall saying, hey, would this outfit look good, this outfit? And she's getting consulting services over the phone. But fashion is her thing. The way she cooks is fashionable, is decorative and stuff. So she was already telling me who she was going to become, what she liked, And I was like, wow, she had a lot of energy, and she has that today, and she multitasks today very well. It gets us a little bit because she don't see some of the things coming. And unfortunately, the one thing I am really cautious of is that she's the mediator out of her crew. And her crew has a lot of issues on a daily. And that's what got me the most, because I'm having to teach her, because she didn't go to school for this. She wouldn't know how to shake it off, how to not allow it to be. Don't even bring, if you're over at their house, don't bring it to the car with you. Leave it in their house, and how to do that. So it's kind of hard to teach her that with the experience, because she's such, a good-hearted person. And when her friends hurt, her crew hurt, she hurts. And she don't know how to shake that off. So I'm trying to teach her that. But I was just sharing with Tommy and DJ before we came on that this past few days, which should have been a restful day, because my school was on spring break. We're back in, but I crashed and burned emotionally. I crashed and I came in hot. And my kids were calling me out on it, like, "Mom, is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I didn't realize I was on fumes. And I've not been on fumes in a while. I know how to get to the hole, get to a cave like Uncle David, and repent and just chill. But I didn't get to the hole. I didn't get to the cave. I didn't seek it out. I just kept going. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And then I heard a couple of folks that, I follow prophetically. And I leaned on a young woman that I've just met online, over the phone rather, out of a referral. And the Lord said, you need to sit and listen to her. So we schedule a session of just talking about another area of God, another arena of God. And you talk about, I didn't open my mouth. I muted myself. And she's like, "No, this is interactive." I said, "No, not tonight. Maybe later on, but I want to hear. I need to be healed. I need to just be quiet, and I need to clear my mind." And I tell you, it was so refreshing. So who's checking? Who are you checking on? Who's checking on you? I as I was thinking about this today, it reminded me of several of my students. One in particular will always say, "Oh, it's great. We need to go out to lunch. We need to go out to lunch." And I would say, "Okay, whenever you let me know, And and one time I was going to be in the area where her parents lived, up in the Georgia area. And I said, "Hey, maybe I can take your mom out to lunch or something, since you talk about me all the time and stuff like that." And she said, "Well, now, Miss Gray, I got to tell you now, my parents like to drink." And I'm like, "Okay." And she said, "So I don't want to expose you to that." I said, "Expose me? Oh, okay, wait a minute. Take me off the glass ceiling. Take me off the glass shelf. Take me out of the glass box. Remove me off the glass platform, please. Okay? Because see, it's people like that I shy away from, because you're okay. Hang on, Tommy. Won't you pick up and let me go deal with the baby?"
Jen sounds like she's having a blast. I mean, a blast. But she's right. Who are you checking on? And it's so funny, because this weekend I stayed home and I tried to stay quiet. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what was going on, but I didn't do anything. I sat on my sofa, and me and God had conversations. At least I was talking, trying to clear my mind so I can hear him. And sometimes I just sat there and just got quiet. I didn't call anybody. If I talked to anybody, they called me. And it was strange, but odd, but good at the same time, because we had just left last weekend where we were with my granddaughter, and we were going. We drove up. My daughter took us out that Friday. Then that Saturday morning, we had to get up and go to the lunching and just everything, and then turn around by 10, 11 o'clock. We was back on the road, headed back south. So it was just a constant. And I've never done that before. It was very odd to me. But I rest. I was in bed before 8:30, 9 o'clock. I rest. And it got my mind clear, ready for this week. Because I know my job, we're getting ready to do several projects, and it's busy. Gonna be busy. So I'm just thankful God gave me this weekend to just sit and be quiet. Never done it, but it was interesting.
And it's important. I think the best clue for me, and I can only share what has worked for me, who do you check on? How do you know when to check on somebody? And because I've given my everything to God, He lets me know. I may see you in my mind gate, and I see you and you run across. But when you run back, that's when I'm like, okay, I've learned. Let me say a prayer real quick. I'm not going to pick up the phone yet. I'm not going to text you yet. If 3 or 4 times that happens in one setting, I'm texting you, hey, you good? You got a minute? And I don't put it out there, oh my God, you're on my mind. Oh my God, no. How you doing? Sometimes it's just a voice. Sometimes you have to just say, you can say to somebody, I just wanted to hear your voice. That's all. Just wanted to hear your voice. And don't be trying to pry. Don't be trying to be nosy. Don't come in as a know-it-all, because I've been there accidentally, didn't mean any harm. Because I come in and I want to, I got the answer. Wait. You don't have to hurt anymore. You don't have to hit, no. And I had to learn that the hard way too. Not everybody wants to hear an answer. They just need to vent. They just need to vent. And you have to know the difference. It got so bad with me years ago that I had to say to a few close people, when you do call me, this is before texting really got into, I had access to texting. I was like, hey, when you call me, just say, hey, you know what? I need to vent. I just need to talk to somebody. That made me, when I had a right hand, that made me, I made myself sit on my hand to make me uncomfortable, to force me to not intervene. I had to do something to myself so I wouldn't say anything. And I was distracted enough to know I'm sitting on my hand. And I was like, okay, I can't say one word, because I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting on my hand. And for me, I had to do that. I had to come up with little psychological, trickery, because our brains, we're very smart, we're very intelligent. Our brain wants to have all the answers. It wants to steer everybody. And that's why you have to renew your mind daily. You got to renew your mind daily. So I want to go back to some people who don't know how to pray for you because of their thoughts of you, their impression, or their, well-intended feelings for you. And they don't realize that I'm just as human as they are. I am just as human. I just made a decision. And I work on that decision every minute of the day. Not every day, not every Tuesday night for Bible study, not every Friday night for warfare night, not every Sunday. I work on it every single minute of the day. Every single minute. So yes, I'm a strong person. Thank you. I know that, but I'm strong in the Lord. I'm strong because He made me strong for the call of my life. Period. However, I am flesh. I have feelings. I am just as human as the next person. So if I flash before you, for me, and I'm only speaking of myself, say a prayer for me. Because you don't know what. I don't necessarily have to be doing anything. There could be an attack on its way. The devil is out there. He's idle. He's going after everybody right now. Everybody, in every capacity you can think of. Have your dog barking. There ain't nothing outside but the spirits, the ghosts, or whatever. She can see things. And it's bothering her because she can't get to it. So you don't know where I could be under attack. Don't be wondering, well, I wonder, I see Miss Gray, or wow, there she is, No, pray for me. Because if I reach out to you, you bet your bottom dollar, I'm praying first before I talk to you, before I text you. And then if the Lord said, no, you need to call her. Then this past week, I had to call 2 people straight away. I couldn't even text and say, hey, hi, you busy? Got a minute? I called them right away. I said, normally I would text you, but God told me to call you. And you need to be checking on people, especially today. Now, this season, do you see what just happened to the banks over the weekend? In one day, one afternoon, everything's in an uproar. People don't know what to do. People were going in and out of one of the banks I was at today. The lady looked like she didn't know. Are you going to turn? Are you going to park? You're going through the drive-thru? What you doing? She's like, she didn't. I was like, okay, let me just back up and be out your way, because you don't look like you're really thinking too clearly right now. And I don't know what's on your mind. I appreciate when people do call or text and say, hey, thinking about you. I know the folks that I know who do that, they're praying for me. I know that they're praying for me. And if I need them, I can say, hey, you got a minute? Even though they have the utmost respect for me. They've walked my journey for a long time. Some people have walked with me a long time. They've seen the highs and the lows. They actually lived it with me. But they respect me enough to know, you know what? I better pray. Trey! Yay!
Hey.
There she is. I don't know what song I could, because I was going to say, who's your mama? But that's not appropriate. So, so Trey, you came right on time. We're talking about who are you checking on and all that. I just shared that I crashed and burned earlier this week. Didn't know that I was even coming in for a landing, needed to land. And I crashed and burned, and my kids called me out and said, you all right? What's wrong with you? And I was actually angry. That's one thing I left out. I was actually angry. And I didn't know why. I did not know why. And finally, I did reach out to a young lady, a woman that I've never met. We just talked on the phone. She ordered a couple of books from me off the bat, and because she was referred to me for a situation, and the Lord said, "Go ahead, you can just sit and listen for whatever she's going to offer," and I did. So y'all talk. Trey, what's on your mind?
Well, I think just trying to check on people that like come to the forefront of your mind. That's very important. If you're thinking about somebody, reach out. Don't hesitate, because it might be a sign that they could be going through something, or you never know. It might be opportune time. It might be God's sign saying, "Hey, look, check on this person. They're going through a little bit of something." But that's what I try to do. When I'm thinking about somebody, I reach out. I try to do my best to be consistent with it. Hopefully nothing becomes a distractor, but put it on a priority list, even if it's somebody I haven't talked to in a long time.
Well, I thank you. We were just saying that, if God puts a person on your mind, that you could text them if it comes back twice. But normally I do my best. I try to do my best. If I think about you once, I'm going to pray for you. Because like you said, I don't know what you're going through. And I don't need to know. That's another thing too. I don't need to pry. I don't need to have all the information. There you go. I don't need to have all the information. I don't need that. And that's another thing too. Other people, they lean on your strength. They lean on you so much, and they don't realize it's like, no. I just recently had to, I asked God, somebody was really being heavy on me. And I asked God, can she be released now? Can she? And God said, yes, let her know and tell her it's activation time. It's application time. You've been taught a long time. Now you need to show him what you know. Instead of running to people, running to conferences, running from church to church. And God's like, I don't know what you're running for because you've not applied what you've learned. And so she had to accept that. And I know it's like pulling the rug out, but she was too heavy because you're draining me. And I don't get drained. I worked in mental health. I work with schizophrenics and multiple personality folk, So, it's important. And I was saying earlier, Trey, that, I know when somebody checks in with me, hey, you were on my mind. You'll text me, right? Hey, you were on my mind. And I know the few that do that, I can say, text back and say, I'm good, but you got a minute? And they make themselves available for me. I was talking about a former student who always kept saying, oh, it's great. We need to go out to lunch. We need to go out to dinner. We need to go to lunch. We get to dinner. And I'm like, okay, so just plan and let me know. And, once upon a time, I was about to travel to the state where her parents live. And I said, well, hey, I can look your parents up, maybe take your mom out to lunch. She goes, well, Miss Gray, I tell you, they're drinkers. And I'm like, and so what? She said, well, I don't want to put you, I don't want you to go through it. And so a lot of times I don't get invitations because of the nature of the environment. And I appreciate that respect, but let me make that decision. I may be hungry. And you paying? So I pay. I need.
And they know where to go.
Yeah. Exactly. Go ahead, Trey. Go ahead.
Well, I was just piggybacking on that. I mean, if they're drinkers, who knows? Maybe the time that you go, they say, you know what? Maybe I don't need a drink. Or, the other thing is too, if you're reaching out to someone, be prepared that they might need to talk. So, it might be say, hey, yeah, I'm doing okay, but I need to, run something by you. Just make sure that, when you're making these calls that you set aside time, because it might not be, okay, I'm hearing you good and let's get off the phone. It might be something else to that. And so depending on the person, you can have different conversations, related to other things that could be helpful, or, things that you can do, maybe get together for lunch or dinner or something like that, or have drinks if that's what you do, so you don't know what people's needs are, but sometimes just somebody caring enough just to reach out is enough to change your attitude and mindset and mood.
Amen to that. Amen. Go ahead, Tommy.
Get back off of her. Don't always say what that person's issue is, because, like you said, sometimes people prejudge you, and that's not good, because you could be that person that person talked to make a great change in their life. And you just don't know your presence. And I'm sure that person would say, well, Mom, okay, she's this, she's that, she my this, my that. Mama say, I don't care. We're just going to eat. Okay. And be surprised of what a difference. Because you could be the one that somebody planted the seed. Now you there to water it so God can get the increase. That so often we shy away from exposing our family. Sometimes they need to be exposed, because sometimes that's when that change come about. And I'm with you all. With you come across my mind, you're right. I'm gonna text, I'm gonna call. old friends, new friends, it don't matter. And like my aunt, my dad's sister, the one that's 84 years old, well, will be 84 this year. I make sure I try to call her at least once or twice a month just to hear her voice. And I love when she always say, "Hey, sweet pea," because he calls everybody sweet pea. And then when she said, you just brought joy to my heart. Just to hear her say that, she don't have to say nothing else for me. That's all I need to hear. But it makes a difference when you call and check on whoever it is, and especially if they come across your mind. Like Miss like Miss Grace said, you run cross and then I see you run back by. I got to call you. I got to call you.
Amen to that. And that's, it's just that. Just reach out. I do thank you for the respect. I appreciate that. But I'm human too. I'm going through sometimes myself, and I have no one human that I can talk to. And that's another thing about leadership. And ladies, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but when you're counted as a leader, when you're seen as a leader, and I crashed and burned years ago and learned something from my first spiritual daughter. Because I couldn't talk to my friends, the few that I did call myself having, because they were living their lives back in my hometown. I couldn't reach out to them. They didn't reach out to me. So who do I have to talk to? This young lady. And she just one day stuck. I mean, you talk about just took my heart out. She said, "Miss Gray, I don't mean no disrespect, but you're going through things with your marriage. If you can't help yourself, how can you help me?" So that's what I learned. You got to set up a border. You got to set up some boundary there. You can't, those who are really going through and who you look upon as a spiritual person, a protege, a mentee, you can't just give them all of you. They can't handle that. They can't handle it. And that tore me apart. She disconnected, blocked, whatever she did, and never spoke to me again. Never spoke to me again. And it was a learning lesson. And I don't know if I'll ever run into her ever again. No, as a matter of fact, I looked her up on Facebook and I sent her a message to say, thank you. I'm a better spiritual mother of Zion now because of you. Thank you so much. My husband has passed now. Just wanted to let you know. I'm not bothering you. You don't have to respond. I pray that you and your family are well. She did. She said, thank you, Miss Gray. I didn't doubt that you wouldn't land on your feet. I'm divorced and I'm raising my boys, but I'm good. And I will never still forget you and the impact you had on my life. And we never spoke again. So, but yeah, you just never know. You can only tell certain people so many things because they really cannot handle it. And I think that's why I crashed and burned this week, because it's like, it's nothing negative, but it was just looking at I think I watched the regular news too much, and I normally don't do that. And I did it last week on my break, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I didn't put two and two together, and I realized I was on fumes. I didn't have substance. I didn't have content. I didn't have a foundation in me anymore. I was really, it was air, and I needed that for myself. But I'm on air. I gave my best to everybody, and I had nothing left for myself. So you have to. So as leaders and as women, that's one thing I started saying at the start of the show, Trey. There's no young lady that I do not know that don't have more than two hats. I don't care how old she is. She could be 9, she could be 16, and she's active in things. She could be 20. There's no young woman I know. Once she's after the age of 5, 6, and she's socializing in school, and she's looking at differences, and she may be even attracted to a little boy, whatever the case, or she wants to be the teacher's pet, whatever the case is, there's no little girl that don't wear no more than one hat. And once you become a woman, the hats that we wear, not only for ourselves, but mainly for other people.
They
Yes, Well, listen to what you're saying about the many hats and stuff, and just kind of throwing something out when you're talking about someone that young, and they could be wearing a hat that they're just trying to survive every day. You know, they could be living in a household where there's abuse and substance abuse and neglect and, you know, criminal activity. And just how do I survive that? You know, on top of going to school, which is a requirement for someone that age. You know, so being able to do work and get your work done and get along with your peers and follow the directions issued by the teacher without anybody definitely knowing what's going on in that household. You know, we know kids that go through that. You know, they have to get the lesson along with dealing with whatever they got going on in the home. And so might not be a whole lot, but it's enough. It's enough for them that no food on the table, you know, no work. Persons maybe not be working or underemployed. You know, got some things that people have to do to survive, which are not always legal things. And so this is life. And so when you're that young and you have to balance, and then you're told don't say anything either. So you're keeping secrets, you know. So that's another hat, a keeper of secrets. To be very careful of what you say and don't say, because you can risk your family, you being taken away from your family, or your family going away to jail or something like that. And that's a stressful thing for a child, you know, any age that's, you know, going through that, whether it's 5 or 15, or, you know, whoever's living in that situation that don't have control over what goes on in that house.
I agree with you on that. And what immediately came to mind is I can't remember what the name of the movie is, but Tyler Perry has that movie where the little girl is seeing about her two brothers, and the grandmama died on the city bus, and they end
I
up
Could
at
Do Bad All by Myself. That
is
one
that I don't know the
with
name. I remember
Taraji
seeing
Henson.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
That baby was wearing so many hats till she
I think
was
so.
just angry. Not at her brothers, but just the world and what she was dealing with. That that's what you're saying, Miss Gray, because there's so many little girls today are taking care of their siblings or their mother or their father or their grandparents, whatever the case may be. And you are so right, and you hit it on the head. Once you're able to stand alone, be responsible for yourself, all of a sudden you got other responsibilities and a hat. And it's like when people say, well, why she so grown? Well, why she act so? You need to be in her shoes to see where she come from. And too often people don't consider that, not realizing what this baby is going through. So you said a mouthful when you said, when you're 5, you know, that young. And let's be clear with this. It depends on that family situation. She could be younger than that, but she have that tuition that I'm gonna take care of my little brother that's right behind me. I'll feed him and give him a bottle. I'll hold him. You just wow. That's enough to make you overwhelmed and burned out. And children and people don't understand why some women feel the way they do, especially when some of them and that don't even care to say, I want to have a child. And we used to, and it's so funny I say that because we used to tease my niece. She eventually had a son, but she used to always say, I just look at my sister Nikki, and that is my birth control. And that, and she, you know, she was serious. She loved her nieces and nephews, but she said it was just so much going on she just didn't want to have no parts of it. And that's the way of the world today.
But I can appreciate her, doing that, because so many people are pressured. I remember when you're this age and you haven't had any children. Well, I mean, what's the biggie for? You know what I mean? It's like, when you do that, there's nothing wrong with children. I can play with them all day, but then I know they're going home somewhere. So you have my attention for the time that I am tasked to keep you. But after that, that's it. And being a parent, my hat's off to anyone that is a parent. That's a hard job, because that is actually a selfless job, because you have to put, not only you don't, it's not about you anymore. You have to put the needs of the child first. Whether they're hungry, why they're crying, and hold it together. You just can't hand the child off because you're upset if there's nobody to hand it to. If they're screaming, they can't tell you what they're screaming about. If you think they're hungry, give them a bottle and they're still crying. You got to do a lot of figuring out. And so my thing is, I don't think folks need to have them just because they're capable. You really have to think this thing out. And then what are your support systems if you want to go out? What is your backup plan? Who is willing to take your child and babysit? Now, who said they're going to do it, but who is willing? And so, and I laughed because I had a coworker one time. She was going to put me down on a babysitter's list. And I said, no, you don't want to put me on a babysitter's list. She said, well, you're good with children. I said, I know. But I also go home, and the children that I work with, they go home. And she said, but you'll be so good. I said, I appreciate the compliment, but no, you don't want me, you don't want me to do that. I'm telling you now, I'm good in my job, but that is about the extent of my madness. I don't volunteer to keep children. I love them. I don't say, oh, I'll take. No, I don't volunteer. Now, if you ask me and say, okay, you need me, that's fine. But depending on the age too, they need to be able to strap themselves in, get themselves out the seatbelt. They're gonna have to. It's gonna be a list, a list of things that they're gonna be capable. And I love them. I love them, but I don't beg a child to come to me. If you're crying when you see me, fine. Hey, we leave it at that. I'll say, oh, no, that's fine. He don't want to come. She don't want to come. Fine. I'm not gonna make him. We don't want anybody getting upset over this. So that's my cue. They don't want to be with me. Fine. That alleviates some of the problem. And so that's me. And I love them to death. I tell you.
That is so funny, Trey. Oh my God, you said so many things, but yeah, I mean, and I know, I'm just making a little bit more fun of it. But you talk about when the lady asked you put you on the list for babysitting, and you said no, I go home. I say, yeah, you don't know, I got a half a pint I be putting away. You don't want me to be babysitting your people. Your child may get lost. And Trey does not. I'm not saying she drinks or anything, but I tell people all the time, you so fortunate that I'm not an alcoholic. Y'all, because I've been told you some things. I know y'all wreck a nerve. Do you hear me? But I remember my sophomore year. Go ahead.
It's funny you say, because my nieces, nephews. Look, I tell them now. Look, I do better when y'all 21. So if you can hang on that long, if I'm here, we kick it. So I'm not. We might have more in common at that age, but under that, okay.
Not this auntie, and that's why I've been telling my three, I'm not in a hurry to be a mother-in-law, and I'm not in a hurry to be a grandmother right now. I'm really not, because I missed out on most of my childhood. My sophomore year in high school, my mother was diagnosed with a hole in her heart and arteriosclerosis of the heart. She was a maid housekeeper, and she had to stop immediately. And I was just got my permit at 15, and I had to drive her to her doctor's appointments. So in my sophomore year, roles changed in my house. And because my mom was, really laid back person, she didn't like to push the envelope and stuff like that. I know she left here saying, "Oh, my child," because I'll confront you in a minute. Not when it comes to my mom and my dad, it's not pretty, whether you family or not, But roles change, and I had no idea that the role that I had to take on would be actually my career, lead me into my career. As a social worker and loving my Black American elderly. That's my heart. I'm going to do my major paper, my graduating paper on that topic. And the healthcare disparities and things like that. And as you all were talking, I could feel the unction of the Spirit. I've been asking God, I don't know. Okay, I've been talking about, this is my nonprofit. This is what I'm going to be writing grants about. I got to get out here in this community, but I don't know when you're going to do it. And he's starting to stir me up now, just for talking tonight about our elderly, about hearing their voice. How many times we've got our elderly, there's some who are living alone. And how many times who's checking on them? Who's checking on them? We stood on their shoulders to get where we are. And they're still living, and they're still trying to thrive, and they're still trying to make it. And then you want to drop all the great grandkids off. That lady don't even know who you are, don't even know who these children. But I'll take her over to Grandma Sally house. She home. Yeah, but her house is not childproof. She may have marbles that she been playing on the floor, and she ain't picked them up because that's her house. And then you're gonna get mad because the child comes back with a scratch. She didn't childproof the house. She wasn't expecting this. I know some grandmothers out there, their hearts are heavy. Their kids know that they could they just can drop them off. And don't even care about you, but then I got to hear it. No, you complain to the wrong person. Talk to the person. You have to open the door. You have to unlock the deadbolt and let them in. You can tell them, no, you have to find me. And you have to schedule, be respectful of me. You don't even check on me. Next thing I know, you bring in, little Susie, a little Harriet over, and then and you leave and say, "Mom, I got to go somewhere. I'll be right back." 3 hours later, you setting that up. That's shame on you. And I used to tell clients when I dealt with my elderly, especially non-color folk, they were like, they had a disabled child in the house. And that disabled child got all the attention, got all the honorable mentions. Oh, look what Seth is doing. Look what Seth, oh my God. And so they come to therapy to me, and they're like, well, I don't understand why Jennifer and Max don't want to, I said, and I look at, if Jennifer and Max was in the session, I said, tell me something. Once you graduate from high school, you're going far away, aren't you? Yes. And I said, Mom, they're never coming back. They're not even coming back for Thanksgiving because you're going to make them feed Seth. You're going to make them feed Seth. So our Floridians here really went into a madness. And that's where the Medicaid med waiver came into play. And there was a group of parents that sued the developmental disabilities part of Medicaid and sued the state of Florida. And once they did that, they set up these. They won this lawsuit, and they said put it in a bank. And so people, as our adult children are aging out of services, and we're getting older, we need to make sure they're going to be taken care of. So that's where you got the tiers. I think the first tier, about 3 tiers, 2 or 3 tiers of you could get companionship. They moved a lot of our disabled out into apartments to share, and they have a aide in the house, in their apartment with them. They make sure they go to work every day. They have activities. They have a support coordinator that oversees their care, because the parents are dying. We're dying and still are. And that was going to be the new homeless who didn't know how to take care of themselves. So that's what, for Florida, that's where all that came about. And all these monies in these banks and pockets of banking monies, because of it got too top heavy and people stealing cookies at the cookie jar. Now we got the new homeless getting ready to get back on the street again, because we're running out of money. You can only tax so much. You can only raise the tax, the mill, only so much. And everybody's trying to get a piece of that in the state of Florida, especially here in Orlando. They're ridiculous. And what are you doing? What are you doing? There's still houses that are vacant. There are still houses that have overgrown lots and everything. That tells me somebody's not there. Nobody's maintaining it. So yeah, you see how one subject could just trickle into many. You see how everything interlocks. Everything matters. We're talking about who are you checking on? And now we're at, houses that are empty and people that are gone and are elderly. So, all right, ladies, that's enough for me because I'm about to go somewhere on that one. So I'm gonna let you come on back, and I'm gonna let y'all talk like I can know that I should. Bye.
It's you said a lot, and it is so true, and it's a sore piece for me too. And the people I check on, and when I see there's a lack, you know what? I just stop and not talk about it and just do something. Because maybe that other person that is not doing what they should be doing, maybe they'll catch the hint that they need to start doing. Because it's too often, too many of our seniors are lacking in areas that they should not be lacking. They were there for us in so many different ways that they now, like you say, the role need to change so that they can be taken care of, because this is their time. What they say, once an adult but twice a child, it's time for that role to switch. And that's where it's so needed, so vividly. And it's a lot of grown daughters and sons that are not doing their part, and they need to stand up, because unfortunately one day they're going to be in that shoe. Then who's going to be there for you? You're not sowing your seed for it to grow, to return back to you. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just going to throw in maybe, looking now too, trying to figure out, what resources are going to be around. And if not, trying to help create some resources for the future. Just like you were saying, Lisa, you got abandoned buildings going up, you got abandoned buildings. So what can you do with those? I know that one time was the old Kmart stayed empty for a long time. So, they could have done something with that, where people could go and fix it up, make a shower, or sleep a couple hours, something, so just different thoughts. Because, resources are getting scarce. So, and it depends on what kind of insurance you have, might not be much. And Medicare doesn't pay for a whole lot either. So those are my 2 cents.
And we don't mean to scare anybody, but we have to make you aware of real life out there beyond your 4 walls, beyond your 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, beyond your gated community. You've got to be aware. You've got to care, because if you're driving anywhere, those folks that are all around you, to your right, your left, in front of you, and in back of you, you don't know what they're going through and why they're trying to run you off the road, and they don't even know you. One girl had her phone so she done forgot to track the green light. We're gone. And I'm looking back. She ain't looked up yet because she's on the phone. So we don't know. So check in with people. Check in with people. Just text them. If they're on your mind, first pray for them. Lord, I don't know what's going on, but be with her. Be with him. Strengthen him. Guide him. Let him know you're there. Activate their angels. Activate their angels. Angels do what they need to do. Be with them and comfort them. That's all it takes. You got to go beyond yourself. Now, next week, the next 2 shows are going to be really exciting. We're going to have some guests joining us, and we'll do those intros then. But time's up for us. So we'll see you next week. Same time, same station. Y'all be blessed. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.